The first international break of the season is over and it's back to Premier League action in the guise of game week 4. Looking back at game week 3, we both had a stinker, Nathan. You came away with 5 out of 10 results, and I came away with a portly 4
to be fair,
out
there
of
was
10
a
results.
lot of shocks last week.
There were.
Really hard.
And neither of us came away with any perfect scores. But looking at the overall leaderboard now, Nathan, you are sitting pretty at the top of the table over at the Superbru website on 33.5 points. But look who's bearing down on you there, Nathan. Douglas, DJ Hall, 92, up 10 places, currently on 31 points and into second position. But we move to game week 4, and all of these matches are taking place on Saturday the 13th and Sunday the 14th of September due to the return of the Champions League. But the action for us kicks off at the Vitality Stadium on the south coast for the Cherries versus the Seagulls.
Yeah, we're actually starting off with a 3 o'clock kickoff, which is a bit of a miracle for this channel nowadays. But Bournemouth and Brighton, I like what both teams have started with this season. Bournemouth winning the 2 games on the bounce in the first 2 game weeks. Of course, they lost 4-0 to Liverpool. Then they turned over Wolves 1-0 and then turned over Tottenham 1-0, which was a bit of a surprise since with, of course, Thomas Frank starts the season as well. Semenyu's been on absolute fire. Their front line's been great. Evan Nielsen's been great. Defence is holding out nicely, so they've been pretty decent, especially with the turnover that they had in summer as well. And then Brighton, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. Really unexpected victory, actually, against Manchester City, who were struggling with a lot of injuries as well. So, yeah, I've got to back Brighton a little bit there. The only thing that does concern me a little bit is the inconsistency of Brighton and who they do turn up against. Bournemouth, I consistently like what they're doing. They are scoring goals against all of their opposition, being tight. But I just don't know. I think it's going to be a cancel-out job and a lot of goals. So I'm going to go Desmond's 2-2.
Lots of goals in that one then, Nathan. For me, yeah, as you say, this is going to be really, really tight. Last season, this has then ended up 2-1 at the Vitality to Brighton. And Brighton have actually won 4 of these last 5 fixtures against Bournemouth. A couple of injuries for Bournemouth, Unal, Lewis Cook and Adam Smith. Looks like they won't be available for this fixture, and Webster and Solly March, of course, are out for Brighton. Looking at Bournemouth, despite losing those key defenders, they've done really well defensively, apart from that loss against Liverpool in the first fixture. Diakite, who's come in, and Senese, who's there anyway, have looked really good at the centre of defence, and they're starting to build up a really good partnership with 2 clean sheets on the bounce. As you said, Semenyu's been instrumental in a lot of things going forward. I know he's been on international duty with the World Cup qualifiers in Africa, so he will feature, but a lot of these players in all of the teams in the Premier League will be possibly feeling it, perhaps after a lot of travel during the international break. Brighton, as you said, been a little bit inconsistent, Nathan. Last time against Manchester City, they were 1-0 down, but Manchester City made a few substitutes, and Brighton really took the game to Man City and came back. A penalty from James Milner, and then winning it late on to take all 3 points in a 2-1 victory. Welbeck front is looking sharp again, so as you say, this could be a draw, but I do fancy Bournemouth at home, especially with that defence at the moment. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory. I think the Seagulls will score in this fixture. And talking about clean sheets, well, Aston Villa can't actually score at the moment. 3 games played and 3 games without a goal. They come up here against Everton at the new Hill Dickinson Stadium on Merseyside last season. This ended up in a 1-0 victory to Aston Villa, and how they'd love that to kickstart their season here up in Liverpool. But Everton have only won 1 of the last 10 meetings against Aston Villa. As we said though, Jack Grealish coming in on loan from Manchester City is the top assister in the Premier League at this early stage of the season with 4 assists. Everton overall are looking good with back-to-back wins against Brighton and Wolves. And looking at Villa, it's back-to-back defeats, and it was a horrific home defeat against Crystal Palace in game week 3. Looking at the bookies odds for this one, well, Everton are favourites in the decimal of 2.45, a draw of 3.2, and a Villa victory will be 2.88. So looking overall, okay, you've got a few injuries. Everton in defence with the likes of Mikalenko, who's got a bit of a knock. Jarrah Branthwaite recovering from a hamstring injury. And Aston Villa in the centre of midfield, Onana looks like he's going to be out, as well as Matty Cash. Morgan Rogers featured for England in that win against Serbia away. That excellent win, you've got to say. So a very tight match, this one. Will Villa get on the score sheet for the first time this season? I'm not sure that they will against Everton here, and I'm going to go for a very, very narrow 1-0 victory to the Toffees, which will stem the tide with all those defeats against the Villains in the last 10 matches.
Yeah, I've gone 1-0 as well. I'm really liking the way that Jack Grealish has started as well. Started like a house on fire, and that partnership, I think, with him and Iliman Ndiaye, that is going to be absolutely phenomenal all season. Better up front.
And Dewsbury Hall's done well.
Dewsbury Hall's done really well. Everton are looking excellent moving forward, and new stadium combination, we know full well across the board how difficult it is when you move into a new stadium to really get that atmosphere going. Everton, the way the stadium's designed, is actually working really well for them, and they turned it into a bit of a fortress. Villa, not been impressed with them the way that they're being absolutely turned over at the moment. Can't get out of first gear, can't score. Recipe for disaster at this time of the season, really. And the thing that does worry me as well, I know that Crystal Palace are absolutely on fire in a way at the moment, but there's no way you should be losing 3-0 at home in the Premier League when you're pushing for those European places. So they really do worry me. I don't think they're going to score. David Moyes is going to keep it tight again, and they're going for a narrow 1-0 Everton victory. I'm going to say either a Beto or a Ndiaye goal again. Grealish another assist up to 5. Next up, 5:30 on Sky, we've got West Ham up against Spurs. West Ham, I said last time around that if West Ham lose, Potter's going to get sacked.
Shocker.
He basically saved his job with 3-0 obliteration of Nottingham Forest, which I wouldn't say directly, but of course Nuno's no longer the manager at Forest. I think in a way that was going to happen with his relationship with Marinakis, but we saw in the background a little bit since Postecoglou's left Spurs with a Greek connection as well, that he was going to push for him to be manager to take him to the next level, really. But Tottenham, they've had a fairly decent start in themselves. Did lose 1-0 to Bournemouth, which was a bit of a stumble there, but Bournemouth have been looking great, and Tottenham, they just completely fell asleep with what they were doing in that game, letting that goal go through. But
Bournemouth could have scored a hatful.
Yeah, they could have easily, but yeah, they did. Thomas Frank did well to keep it down in a way, but it's a tricky one which way this is going to go. Potter, of course, is still under a lot of pressure. Certain players are looking fairly decent there. Mohamed Kudus is returning to the London Stadium, of course, which is going to be interesting. And I think in a way they could turn him over. I think it's going to be a solid 2-0 to Spurs, to be honest. Will Potter be there by the end of the weekend? I'm not sure.
Yes, that was a massive shock, West Ham getting that 3-0 victory in game around 3. This ended up 1-1 last season at the London Stadium, and West Ham have only won 1 of their last 8 meetings against Spurs. So it all points towards a Tottenham Hotspur victory. I think they will bounce back after that defeat against Bournemouth, which they didn't look great at all in that.
Yeah.
Fulkrug for West Ham is out with a calf strain, I believe, for this fixture. I don't think he'll be back. And you look at Spurs' injury list, like some Madison, who's on a long-term injury. Solanke could be back, and Kulusevski as well is out with a knee injury, I believe. In that defeat against Bournemouth as well, it was the first goal that they've conceded in their first 3 games. For me, though, I think the West Ham fans will be buoyed by that 3-0 victory against Forest. All London affair, London derby, but I fully expect Spurs to have too much for West Ham in this one. I'm going to go for a fairly comfortable 2-0 away win to the All Whites. Next up, we've got an 8 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday night, live on Sky in the UK. We've got Brentford coming up against Chelsea. Now, Chelsea have done really well so far this season. They're currently in second position in the league with their 2 wins and 1 draw. An excellent 2-0 victory against their close rivals Fulham in game round 3. However, the Blues, Chelsea, have only beaten Brentford once in their last 7 meetings. So, got to give Brentford a little bit of respect in this one. However, Brentford, a defeat against Sunderland, I think it was quite late on in game round 3 where I thought they would get at least a draw in that fixture. Being at home though, they are a strong outfit. However, Chelsea have got an abundance of talent throughout their ranks, although they will be missing the likes of Cole Palmer, who's got a bit of a groin/pelvic injury or a hip injury, and Delap as well as a long-term absentee. I think he's going to be out for something like 10 weeks, I've heard. So I think Brentford will score at home, but I think Chelsea, Joe Pedro's looking good, isn't he, up front? I'm going to go for a 2-1 away victory to the Blues.
Yeah, Brentford, I just don't have a clue what they're going to do at the moment. Nottingham Forest game week 1, they were absolutely terrible, being really worked over, constant counter-attack, not good from set pieces, and yeah, just a bit of a mess. But then they were able to beat Villa with that victory. I know Villa haven't been particularly great, and then go up to the stadium and get a goal, but Sunderland completely turn them over. So it's hard to make an assessment whether Brentford are actually playing well. Visser's gone, trying to adapt to this Keith Andrews ball now as well, his first managerial role. I know we all know how much of a hipster appointment it was, but he has been with the club for a few years as the set piece coach. But yeah, it's a massive transition down there. Chelsea, they've been looking great. 7 goals now in the last 2 games. João Pedro's looking great, on fire. The midfield settling well. In general, they just look like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, Henderson's got a couple of goals as well, and he's getting
which
on penalties too.
Very, very unusual, actually, with the type of player he is. So I'm going to be modest here. Brentford, they are going to score, which is just a general thing with Brentford, but yeah, more than enough for Chelsea 2-1. And finally, moving on to 4:30 on Sunday, Super Sunday, Man City, Man United, Manchester derby. Pep Guardiola, it's been a bit deja vu, isn't it? Shirky's now out, and you just had that bombshell the other night from the qualifiers that Marmoush is out, injured on Egyptian duty as well. Man United, their front line is looking decent. Šeško needs to get his scoring boots on a little bit, and Buemo's looking alright as well, which is good. He's going to build into the season, but I keep saying it throughout the season. Your goalkeeper's the issue. Midfield, you need a bit of beef in there, and you should have really cashed in on Bruno Fernandes while you could have. Back line, it's looking a bit iffy. Normally with the Manchester derbies, I've done it for the past 4 or 5 years. Traditionally, the away team always wins in this game. I cannot see that happening with this Manchester United side. Anarim, he's just struggling to get them out of first gear, and he said in multiple interviews as well that he's not getting a tune out of this squad, and it's the players again for the manager. So for that reason, negativity is going to be there. As long as Pep doesn't overthink it, I think it's going to be a good Man City victory. So let's go 3-1 to the Citizens.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Manchester City because the amount of injuries. You just touched on a couple there, didn't you, Nathan? But you're also looking at Kovacic. I think he's going to be out for this fixture with a calf shin heel injury. Got the likes of Phil Foden. He could actually be back for this fixture. He's got a bit of an ankle injury too. John Stones as well. And as you say, Mamouche. The highlights of Manchester United injuries is Cunha, new recruit.
And he's been the star man so far.
Yeah, he's gone close a couple of times, but not actually getting on the score sheet. And look at that last victory, that late last victory in game round 3 against Burnley, conceding 2 goals. That defence has got to concern Manchester United fans, and they're coming up against Man City and Erling Haaland scoring 5 goals on international duty in that 11-1 victory for Norway over Moldova, wasn't it? He is on fire, and he's going to be licking at his lips against his Manchester United defence. The only problem is, will he get the ball? Will there be enough creativity in the Manchester City ranks? Rodri's coming back into a bit. I think he was taken off, wasn't he, against Brighton?
He needs to be bedded in, though.
Yeah, and he's looking a little bit jaded, a little bit tired, and he's going to take a while to come up to full fitness, although he did feature for Spain in the World Cup qualifiers. So that being said, you'd probably think this is going to end up in a draw, a very tight match. But I think with Erling Haaland on fire, 5 goals at home, and that weak Manchester United defence, I'm going to go for a 3-1 home victory to the Citizens. So what about the other 5 fixtures? Well, let's move to our quick fire round. So take it away, Nathan, with Arsenal. The Gunners taking on Postecoglou's Nottingham Forest.
New manager bounce? I don't think so just yet. Narrow, boring Arsenal 1-0 victory. Palace Sunderland, like Palace way too much at the moment. 2 on fire, 2-1 Palace. Fulham against Leeds, both grinding out results. Cancel each other out, job 1-1. Newcastle Wolves, like what Newcastle are doing, Wolves. Yeah, let's go 2-1 Geordies. Burnley Liverpool, that defence is being obliterated. 4-0 Liverpool.
For my quickfire predictions, Arsenal against Nottingham Forest. This Gunner side is going to have too much firepower for Nottingham Forest, especially after that last 3-0 defeat. So I'm going to go 2-0 Gunners. Then we've got Palace against Sunderland. Sarr could be out here, but I still think they'll win 2-1 against the Black Cats. Fulham Leeds, I've gone for a 1-0 narrow victory for Fulham over Leeds. Then we've got Newcastle against Wolves, a new front line for the Geordies, and I can see them winning this one 1-0 against Wolves. And then we've got Burnley coming up against Liverpool, a straightforward 2-0 away victory for the Reds. So those are our predictions for game round 4. Make sure you leave your predictions as a comment, and if you're playing along at home and think you can climb the predictions league, then get over to the Superbru website at the end of this video. Make your predictions. So Nathan, we're not at a football fixture this weekend, we're up to other stuff, and all the tickets have been sold out for that Stockport versus Cardiff City match. Nuno's gone. Quickly then, who do you think's going to be the next in the firing line?
It's between one of 2 for me. I think there's a few others at risk, but it's going to be between Potter and Anarine for me, to be honest.
Yeah, Potter, he's on borrowed time really, isn't he? And Amarin, kind of blaming the players in a way, you could say. But
that's just the culture,
will
isn't it?
the Man United hierarchy give him time? We'll soon find out. But thanks for joining me once again, Nathan. Thank you for joining me as well. Enjoy the Premier League action over the course of the weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, I got something to say. I'm just so sick of hearing everyone complain. I know it's tough and I know there's pain, but hitting bottom is the only way to change. So I'll keep hustling, you keep struggling.